Hi, welcome to my craft room. We're going to be talking about window sheets or acetate sheets. They mean the exact same thing. These are a couple of cards that I have created using the technique I'm going to be teaching you. First of all, let's take a look at our window sheets. They come 2 sheets to the package. They are 12 by 12, and I've cut these down. The ink of choice is your StazOn. Make sure you re-ink your pad before getting started. You want it to be nice and wet so that your image is nice and clear. The stamp set is Just Believe, and boy, this is a great set. You get 9 stamps in this set. So ink that up, and if you have a craft sheet, you want to work on that. I line this up so that the very base of my grass goes off of that window sheet. Just press that and it's going to cling, so you want to hold down the window sheet. And now set that aside to dry, and that wipes right off of a craft sheet. Let me show you about cleaning with the StazOn cleaner on these clear mounts. Go just down the center, not near the edges. Then I take a baby wipe and I want to work that around, and then I take my mist and go over that a second time. The reason is you do not want that StazOn cleaner to go into your foam. I have cut a 2-inch by 12-inch strip of the window sheet, and I'm going to be making an overlay. I have chose the delicate doilies to stamp on this. Re-ink it as usual with the StazOn. The first thing you want to do is you want to get your full image. So I'm stamping that first. And if you have a craft sheet, be sure and work on that, because it will not absorb your ink like if you were stamping on paper, so you can get more than one stamping from the one inking. Go to the end and now bring it back up, and you want to alternate doing one side then the other, get your full image. I want to show you a little tip too. Let's just say that this image did not stamp clearly, it smudged. You can remove it. Take your StazOn cleaner and go over that. Just put a little bit on there. Then take your baby wipe and it'll come right off. The thing you want to be very, very careful of is that you don't hit into your other images, because it'll also remove them. Then I just dried that off, kind of buff it up so that it's nice and shiny, and just continue on to the remainder of this sheet. And I'm going to be making a card with this overlay, so be sure and stay tuned. That'll be my next video coming up. And I'm also going to use some of the sheets that I have stamped. Isn't that pretty? Oh, and look at this. This is one of the ideas you can use, and I've used the very same colors in this one, and look how different they are. It's the intensity of the color that makes all the difference in the world. With this one, I have wrinkled up my tissue paper, and I've also brought in another medium Pearl X. Stampin' Up! Used to sell Pearl X, and I just love it. It makes a beautiful shimmer, and I bought every single one they had. I have a whole drawer full. And I had a dryer sheet sitting there, so I thought, why not? I tried that on there, and look what a different look that gives. So first of all, we want to flip this window sheet over. We're working on the back side of our stamped image, and our medium of choice is Crystal Effects, and we'll be using that on each and every one of these. When you add the Crystal Effects, do not go to the very edge of your window sheet. You don't want that seeping over to the front. It makes kind of a gooky mess. Gooky mess, is that a technical term there? Okay, so let's add a pinch of that, and it doesn't take very much of the Pearl X to add a beautiful shimmering effect. And now it's time to bring on those rubber gloves, because we're going to get messy. Take your finger and just work that into that Crystal Effects all over that window sheet. And man, that's beautiful all by itself. We wouldn't have to do anything else. But we're going to bring in some of the re-inkers. And our first color is the Regal Rose. So add a few drops of that. And then next, the Pear Pizzazz, and I know this is a discontinued color, but you know what, if you're like me, you've got plenty of it, so let's use it. And can you see how that's running? Okay, and lastly, the Concord, and that's a strong color, so go very light-handed with that. And look how that's running, because you have spread that Crystal Effects all over that window sheet. It's going to run all by itself. I've cut pieces of tissue paper that are larger than my window sheet, and the dimensions of that window sheet is 3.5 by 4.5. I've wrinkled this up, and then I'm just simply going to lay it on there, kind of smush that around. And when you turn that over, you're going to see just how beautiful that is. Wow, that Pearl X made a difference, didn't it? Then I'm going to lay this down, and I'm going to gently move any of that Crystal Effects that is near the edges. I'm going to move it so that it clings that tissue paper all the way around that. And if you look and see that you've missed a corner, you can go back in, just pull that tissue paper back, and you can just add a little bit more, because this is a glue and it will stick right to that. Now there is a drying time on this. I'd say it's an hour plus, so set that aside and let it dry, and let's try a different idea with this, always using the Crystal Effects. And I wanted my pink to be a little bit lighter this time, so I changed out my color, and I'm going with the Pretty in Pink. And I'm staying with the Pear Pizzazz for my grass, and I've gone a little heavy-handed on this because I want to show you how you can remove some of this if you need to. So I'm letting this run just a little. It looks like we could use a little bit more Crystal Effects in there, so you can go back in and add more. Isn't that wonderful? You're the creator, so just keep adding and moving things around. So I'm going to tip this around and let this run a little bit. Now you can see how intense that green is. All you have to do is tear off a piece of paper towel, wad that up, and you can just go right in there and absorb some of that ink right up off of there. If you add a little more Crystal Effects, then the color won't be quite as strong. Now I'm just taking my finger and moving that, and you want to use a different finger as you change colors. If you get the colors mixed together too much, it becomes kind of a muddy look. So you want to try to keep those so that they don't blend together too much. And I'm bringing in some of the Dazzling Diamonds, and that really adds a beautiful effect. Tap that, flip it over, and isn't that pretty? Now I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to just work that around so that that works all the way to my edges, and that way I'll have a more intense color. Do you like that? Isn't that pretty? I think that glitter really, really makes a difference. Now this is my favorite. I have stamped 2 of the window sheets. I'm flipping one over, and I'm adding again the Crystal Effects, and I'm going to change up my colors ever so slightly. I'm staying with the Pretty in Pink. I think that's really a nice color. But this time I'm going to bring in some Pool Party for the Grass. And then I want to add a little bit of the Daffodil Delight. I really like that color, and I've let that spread a little bit. Now you add the 2 back sides together, and you just kind of rub them together and let that move the colors around. And I've got a little bit here wants to drip, so I'm putting it on the back side of the one, moving that around once again. And if you need to add more color, this is the time you would do it. You can just go back in, add a little bit more of your Crystal Effects, and I think I'll go with the pink. So I'm bringing in a little more of that. And look at that and decide where you want more of that at on the opposite sheet, and then put them back together and just kind of smush those together a little bit. Remove them, and you're ready to bring on your tissue paper. Because you're sharing this color with 2 sheets, the colors are going to be much lighter. We'll add a little bit of the Dazzling Diamonds just to see the difference in the 2. But isn't that lovely? It wanted to stick to that craft sheet because I got a lot of that Crystal Effects on there. And look how pretty that looks. It's stuck to my finger. And if you need to go back in, just like I showed you before, you can go back in and add a little more to the edges. Here I'm trimming around this, but because some of the areas where the Crystal Effects kind of built up and it's stuck into that tissue paper, it gives you an uneven edge. So I recommend that you take your trimmer, and this is one of those edges right here. You can see it's giving me a little trouble. And just remove those little hairline pieces that have built up because you want your edges nice and smooth. And this is what the finished effect will be. Just adhere that on, and I used Crystal Effects to adhere it onto my cardstock. And now, wow, how do you like this? This is the beautiful Butterfly Bigs die, and I just took one of those sheets, and once it was dried, and I cut this out, and I'm going to use it on a package. Girls, I hope you've gotten some good ideas, and I'll see you next time.